Hello, good evening. The message you think is simple enough to follow. This lockdown, stay home, don't spread. We raise questions about compliance as if it's a straightforward matter of good behaviour. For many, it's not. You won't stay home if you can't afford to. You won't self-isolate if others are depending on you. You won't stop work if your job is the only way to get food, and you won't recognise a COVID cough if other illness covers the signs of new infection. For some, this is not about a lack of will or a lack of social conscience or a failure to care for others. It's about the weight of one risk over something much bigger. And whilst the March lockdown had a certain novelty, 10 months on have left many worn down, grieving, unwell or out of cash. So tonight we ask the big question: can we still depend upon lockdown to work? And what to tell our children and their parents when there's no guarantee they'll even be back in school before summer? We begin with a data released today which painted an alarming picture. Lewis Goodall is at our wall. Lewis.
Yes, Emily, perhaps the most important...
The way we're prioritising is right at the moment. Clearly it's the vulnerable age demographics that are receiving the jab first. Would you change that order? Would you do it in socio-economic or ethnic demographics to get priority access?
Well, Emily, down.
Thank you both very much indeed. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Well, this evening, the Prime Minister was asked why schools were open to millions of children on Monday, only to be shut hours later for the foreseeable future. His response wasn't easy to understand. We're still waiting to hear what will take the place of summer exams, still waiting to hear if children can expect any school before summer. Still waiting to hear what exactly happens to those short of the equipment and conditions to help them learn from home. The BBC has today laid out its largest educational offering, hours of educational TV to children forced to study from home. Lewis Goodall asks where the education of our young is heading. Lewis Goodall there. Well, we're joined now by Sammy Wright, who's Vice Principal of Southmore Academy in Sunderland, also a member of the Social Mobility Commission and a newly appointed advisor on Ofqual's 2021 Exams Committee. So a lot to get through with you, Sammy. But first of all, just tell us if we're right. When we think this only affects the very poorest children and their families, is that the whole picture?
Not at all. I mean, I think one of the...
What about laptops this year, about the laptops that did arrive, the laptops that didn't arrive? Does it come down to equipment? Does it come down to the environment itself? Simple things like, you know, having quiet in the house. Do the telecoms companies and technology companies have a role to play in this? What's the most useful step that would mitigate?
I mean, when you say all those things...
Now, for a few brief hours today, YouTube, owned by Google, removed from its platform the content of the station Talk Radio. This evening, in a statement, they told us why, explaining it was their policy to take down flagged content that violated community guidelines, including COVID-19 content that explicitly contradicts expert consensus. The Talk Radio channel has now been reinstated, but it does seem to raise a bigger question. At a time of unprecedented public emergency and in the face of so much irrefutable scientific data, is it irresponsible to spread the word of the COVID deniers, the lockdown sceptics? Is it wrong to wear the unorthodox view? Or is it wrong not to acknowledge it? I'm now joined by the Associate Editor. The second spike has refused to materialise and the 1 metre rule is unnecessary. I mean, is there not a moment of contrition from you that you wrote this stuff down and published it?
Hands up, I got that wrong, Emily. But let's not forget that was